Hello everyone, I hope you are well and welcome to a new 4D Systems video. This week we will be doing something a little bit different. I'll be taking you through my basic steps and workflow of how to download, import, and model a simple form around a 4D Systems display using the step files and datasheet provided on our website. For this tutorial, I'll be making a mockup of a smart desk device inspired by the Brown DN40 digital alarm clock, and I'll be showing you the main steps on how to get started on making your own. So starting off, the first thing that I always like to do is take a look at the dimension and data sheets for the device that I am modeling around. In this case, it's a Gen 4 ULCD 7.0 display. To download the model for this display, I'm first going to go to the 4D Systems website. From here, I'll navigate to Products and choose Gen 4 ULCD. I'll then scroll down and find my display from the list. From here, you can see a lot of basic information about your display, like the resolution, brightness, and viewing angle. All the way on the right of the list, you can also find the datasheet, which will give you in-depth information like the engineering drawings. These are also very important for references and tolerances as well. In the very last row is the downloads page. So I want to press this so I can get access to the step file for my display. Once I press downloads, it brings me to this page and I can choose step and download it to my PC. The reason that I personally prefer to use the step file when modeling is because it gives me a direct reference and exact measurements. It also is great for trying to understand the scale of your product as well. Because this step file can be used in any 3D software, it's easy to do something like drop it into a scene of a desk and create a visual reference for scale and form. Or even just to get an idea and mock-up of a project if I don't have the display on hand. I am going to be modeling in Fusion today, although as mentioned, this step can be used in SolidWorks as well. The tools would almost be identical either way. Again, this is just my very basic process, and your workflow might be slightly different. So here is the step file imported into Fusion. It is a fully accurate 3D representation of the display. You can see all the little details here: the frame, the PCB outline, the connectors, the cover lens bezel, and the actual active display area as well. I like to look through this briefly before starting because it really helps me understand how the device is built. Even for a simple mockup like this one, it gives me confidence that the enclosure I'm designing is going to fit properly around the real hardware. It is just another part of the toolkit that makes creating a functional enclosure or a mockup so much easier, and it's a great addition to add to your workflow. So now that I have this step file imported and opened in Fusion, I'm just going to hide it for now while I start to set up the housing. Again, this is just my personal process, so you might want to do it differently, but I do like making reference to the engineering drawing to start planning out the dimensions and scale of this product. I'm going to start by drawing out the side profile, while making reference to the dimensions of the display on the technical drawings. I'll make sure to leave enough space for a small outer bezel surrounding the cover lens. Once I have my sketch finished, I'm going to extrude it to the appropriate length, and now the main form of the body is done. The next step from here is to create the cutout for the display, and usually at this point of the process is when I find it appropriate to start using the step model. So if I turn this step model back to visible, I'm going to use the move tool and the point-to-point feature so I can match the rotation and midpoint of the display to the midpoint of where I would like the cutout to be on the housing. So now the display is perfectly aligned to where the center of the cutout will be, and it is also flush with the top surface of where I'm going to leave this outer bezel. Now is when the step file will come in really handy, because instead of having to manually draw the perimeter outline, What I'm going to do is create a new sketch on this face where I want the display to sit. And then I'm going to press P, which is the shortcut for project. And I'm going to project the perimeter lines of the body and the cover lens bezel of the display onto this new sketch. This will then make the outline show up here. And from here, I'm just going to offset these lines using O according to the tolerance specified on the technical drawings, which in this case is 0.3 millimeters. Now this drawing is also finished and we are ready to create the cutout. So all that's left to do is extrude these sketches down to the correct depth. And there we go, our screen is sitting nicely in our housing. From here is when you would usually go on and work on more details like the internals. You would likely shell the housing to make space for more components to fit. You would also make an exit hole for the display to be powered and have access to the display later if you needed. But as I am only using this for a 3D mockup and for the sake of this tutorial, this is about the level of detail that I need to make the product look good in a render. Before I go on and finish off the main form, I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about something that's really important when you're designing anything around an electronic display. And that is understanding clearances and how everything actually sits inside the enclosure. So even if I'm not going super in depth for this tutorial, I still like to take in consideration how the real display behaves. For example, if I zoom in here, you can see that this part of the frame actually protrudes slightly higher than the rest. That means if you were making a real enclosure, you'd want to add either a recess or give yourself a bit more space so the screen is still able to sit flush and isn't pressing against the housing. Another thing is always keeping in mind how much depth the display takes up. If you're making a product that's meant to sit on a desk like this, you don't want it to end up too much thicker than it needs to be. So even when doing a quick mockup, I'll look at the total depth of the display and think about how it affects the proportions of the device. Once again, you don't have to be super precise here, but just having that awareness makes the process so much easier. And if you are to come back later and complete this housing to be functional, you can just easily continue and make edits from where you left it. Okay, so with all that in mind, I'm happy with the positioning of the display and the cutout we made earlier, and now we can move on to the final touches. The last steps are just some finishing touches like fillets and small adjustments. From here, I'll just double check everything, and when I'm happy with it, I can export it as my preferred file type and put it into my rendering program to create a nice mockup ready to use for anything I need. And that is the whole workflow for creating a quick mockup and render for a housing using our 4D systems display. If you guys enjoyed this, I can also go in depth on building the scene and rendering out a product like this in the future as well. I hope this video was helpful. Please stay tuned for more tutorials and projects in the future. If you have any questions, please visit the 4D Systems Resource Center. And if you would like to take a look at the Gen 4 ULCD product range, please visit our website linked in the description. Thank you for watching and see you next time.